Hey, here's the latest addition to the shack. Kind of unexpected, I must say. But Garry KG4D presented this to me the other day when he stopped by. Picked this up at Shelby, and he kind of knew I was looking for a matching transmitter from my R4B. And he found this one real reasonable and picked it up and he gave it to me. So I guess I'll be doing some more work for Garry. And that's okay. Anyway, it's a T4XB from about 1967-68, and let me give you the skinny on this thing. It's got the copper-plated steel chassis, looking mighty good. Yeah, I cleaned it up a little bit. And of course I've got a new filter coming from Hayseed Hamfest. Those guys ought to send me a Christmas card this year, or a fruitcake or something. Seriously though, that's a good outfit to deal with. Let me pause this for a second. Okay, here's the underneath view. Looking pretty clean in there. Not a lot of rust on the chassis. And back to Hayseed for a minute. They do a real good job. Their service is good, and it sure makes it a lot easier to get kind of a replacement can like that, rather than trying to mess around underneath the chassis where there's not a lot of room. And it's just an elegant solution. So hats off to the Hayseed Hamfest folks. Anyway, let me pause this for another second. Okay, I mentioned that I got this. Garry KG4D actually picked this up for me. And the TR4C that I worked on for Garry had a couple of issues, a couple of bad tubes, but the main thing was he had a bad crystal IF filter, 9 megahertz 8-pole filter. Anyway, I got to checking around with this. I put some power to it the other night, and it was making power on all bands, some bands more than others, and the finals looked to be well neutralized, so I think the power amp is working just fine. It's probably in need of a little alignment touch-up. But I went to check the crystal filters, and guess what? There's a bad lower sideband filter. Isn't that something? What are the chances? Anyway, so I hunted around on eBay, and a friend of Bill's, WE5P, had a pair of filters from a parted out Drake transmitter that had a PTO issue, evidently. So I've got the lower sideband filter coming at a very reasonable price. And I may get in touch with him later and see about picking up that upper sideband filter too. And here, let me pause this for a second and I'll show you the reason why. Okay, we'll see if this comes out. I'm not sure that it will. One of these days I'd like to be able to do this a little better. But anyway, here's the deal on the filters. Ignore this one for the moment. That's an old Atlas transceiver filter that has the same IF. This one I had kicking around here. But you can see it's an upper sideband filter, and I may end up using that, or at least experimenting with it in the rig. Here's the Drake upper sideband filter right here. And that looks pretty reasonable. A lot of lows and mids there, kind of tapers off a little bit in the high end. And again, these are just relative plots. I mean, there's nothing precise about any of this. So there's a lot of room for error and interpretation, but gives you a relative indication. And you can see where all the transmitted energy is in this segment here. So that's 1 kilohertz per tick mark up here. This is 3 kilohertz out here. So that's one up to about 1.5 kilohertz. There's a lot of energy there. And then it tapers off. So we'll see what that sounds like. This one's a little bit better distributed, but it's got more insertion loss. And, you know, I don't know how accurate these ripple plots are. I have my doubts, but anyway, that's the upper sideband stuff. So this one I think we could live with. I might put that one in and try it. But most of the sideband that I'll be doing with this thing is on lower sideband anyway. Okay, so now we look at the lower sideband filter. And that's, of course, this one right here. You can see right off the bat that the low frequencies are way, way rolled off. This is 300 hertz where the green shading starts. And we're down 10, 20 dB from 300 hertz. Each one of these tick marks up here is 1 kilohertz again. So we don't start seeing real meaningful audio until we get up to almost 1.5 kilohertz. And then it's, you know, pretty good out past or out to about 3. So this lower sideband filter is going to sound like the shorts are really tight. Almost no lows to it, and very tinny. And use that in combination with a D104, it'll probably make your ears bleed. So I think this filter's got to go, and I've got one coming that I'm sure will have to be better than what that is. So that's the story on the T4XB from my buddy Garry KG4D. Thanks again, Garry. We're making progress, and I'll have this thing on the air in a week or two, I hope. So there you go. Keep on tinkering.